Hello there, and welcome to the Outside Film Podcast, where we talk film, TV, games, and all that jazz like there's no tomorrow. This week, we're talking about Thor, 2011's original Thor film. My name is Tom, and as always, I'm joined with my co-host, John.
Hey, hello there. I'm still trying to work on my introduction. I need to be like cool. It's like, hey, it's me.
Was that I couldn't hear you then. So for me, it was just I'm joined with my co-host, John, and then just like silence. It's like, oh,
Silence.
So yes, Thor. I mean, this is it. This is the beginning of our kind of look back at the three Thor films before we get Thor: Love and Thunder. And yes, before anyone notices, I still sound like shit. So there we go.
Yeah, Thor. Wow, 2011. That's the year it came out. That's crazy. You know,
That's so long ago. This is the first MCU film that I ever saw at the cinema.
My first one was Thor: The Dark World. So
Really? Oh, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so much nostalgia for this film. Like, I really, really like this, and I don't know if it's because it's genuinely good or just because I have loads of nostalgia for it, but genuinely, I think Thor is really underappreciated. I think people don't really give it enough love and attention, and this might be my favorite of the series so far. I mean, obviously, we're going to watch The Dark World and Ragnarok in the coming weeks, but like, this is my favorite. I genuinely think so. I really like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of scenes that I've completely forgot about. You know, like. I mean, apart from like Chris Hemsworth's like blonde,
God,
eyebrows.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, what a choice that was.
What a choice that was, and the music. Oh my God, the music is just amazing. Like,
yeah, there are so many. Like, I would say this film has one of the best MCU romances in it, and I think that there are some really nice scenes where Jane and Thor are together and the music is so sweet and tender and it really sells this romance between them. But also there's like this epic moments. Like when Thor catches his hammer at the end and he like becomes Thor again, it is one of the best scored moments in the MCU, and he begins making that tornado and like so themes from like the classic motifs come back. And honestly, Patrick Doyle knocked it out of the park with this score, and it's a real shame that he didn't do The Dark World or Ragnarok.
Dude, like the music that just swells up when Thor gets the hammer, and then like that speech when he talks to Odin, like, I'm sorry, oh father, and then like talks about like what he's done and realizes that what he's done, and that's a great character arc, like to end with that. Love that.
Obviously recently we talked about Doctor Strange, and I think a lot of the time in the MCU we get this very similar narrative of the hero who is arrogant and self-centered and does something wrong and has a chance to look at themselves and becomes humbled. And I think this, along with Iron Man, is probably the best it is in the MCU. I mean, I love the way that he is such a like narcissistic, big-headed guy who just waltzes into Jotunheim and just causes so much chaos. And the way that Odin yells at him and really like, you know, takes his hammer and he strips his armor and he casts him out. The opportunity to bring him down onto Earth literally and have him kind of learn these lessons is such a great arc for him. I love the scene where he enters the shield base and he gets the hammer and he tries to pick it up. He tries to pick it up and he can't. And it's a real like, you know, moment where he gets to look at himself. And when Loki visits him, he realizes what he's done. Even though Loki's lying, he sees, you know, the kind of hubris that he has been exuding this whole time.
Yeah, and it's like the early days of the MCU in like 2011, and with Thor being this Norse god, and you know how it's gonna integrate into the MCU. This is well done with the gods with like Loki and Thor, and that whole impact of like Thor as this arrogant god, and then realizes what he's done, and then Loki being the trickster. This is a great way of like introducing Loki.
It's so good.
And like how he tricks Thor that, you know, Odin is dead, and this like sets up with this great arc. Is he worthy or is he not? So I really like that, you know, like how he's going to set that up towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is that amazing scene where Loki goes into Odin's vault and he takes the casket and he becomes a frost giant, and he confronts his dad about it. And he yells at him like, you know, this is why I've always felt like unloved. This is why I've always felt second best, because you think I'm this monster. And, you know, he says, like, no matter how much you claim to love me, you couldn't have a frost giant sitting on the throne of Asgard. And it's amazing that he even says it himself. He doesn't want to be king. He never wanted that. He just wanted people to appreciate him and not just kind of talk down to him. And it's such a good, like, it's no wonder Loki became so popular from this and Avengers, because he's such a tragic character who only wants simple things, and is forced to become a trickster just because of the way that people treat him.
And it's a really interesting journey for Loki, like how it spans across the entire MCU from 2011 to 2018. Like, that's a crazy journey for, like, exploring this character who is so tragic, and he loses everyone, and he loses himself in 2018 with Infinity War. Like, he has this arc, like he wanted to, protect others, like you kind of see that in Ragnarok, and then he tries to, he saves Thor. And then Loki, the TV show, that's a great way of seeing a new, fresh villain of Loki from 2012 for the Avengers, and then seeing that whole thing, how that is turned. And Loki in this film is such an interesting character. So I'm glad they introduced that, because it's a great way of, like, you're seeing the dynamic between Thor and Loki. Like, they have two different goals, and then Loki wants to be king, and then Thor wants to be worthy, and it's a great way of seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they both definitely come from different sides, and this film is so Shakespearean in the way that it is, this kind of family drama, and I feel like it's the most godly. Like, this is the time where all the Asgardians and all the different characters feel like they are gods. They're talking as if they are so. And I think that Kenneth Branagh, the director, he shows so much love for the source material in this film. Like, you see in Belfast, which is his recent film, incredible film, by the way, everyone should watch it. But it's based off his life, and the kid who's, like, playing him, it reads a Thor comic at some point. And watching this and knowing how important Thor was to him as a kid, I can see that he has so much care for this. And I think this is amazingly shot. I think it looks beautiful. I think it is as grand as it needs to be. Like, even in Thor's coronation, when he's got the helmet on and the music is swelling, I feel like there is so much attention brought to it, and it really does bring these characters to life. They don't feel like just quip machines, and this is a funny film as well. There are some really funny moments.
Yeah,
but, like, it doesn't just feel like the standard MCU quipping that you get these days. It feels more organic than that, and it genuinely feels like there is that care and attention put into these characters who feel different from Iron Man, feel different to Captain America, and or, as I said in the Avengers video that we did a couple of weeks ago, every corner of the MCU at this point is so vastly different from each other. I think you see that in this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, with the comedy, and it's natural. Like, yeah, as you said, it's organic. Like when Thor grabs, this mug in this diner, and he drinks it, and he's like, delicious, and he just throws the mug on the floor. He's like, another one, and then that's just great. Like, if they could have, like, worked on the comedy for Thor, like, a bit better. It's a bit weird, like, later on in Thor Ragnarok, it's a bit too much. I mean, it's great in Thor Ragnarok, but the comedy is good. But then, how is that going to work for that journey for, like, Thor Love and Thunder? And it's a great character, like, he's this arrogant god, and then he tries to learn about Earth, and then tells everybody that he's a god, and then tells about, like, the 9 realms. It is 9 realms. Yeah, 9 realms. Yeah. And there was a great scene I liked when Thor talks to Jane about, like, the 9 realms and the music.
Yes.
Like, he shows you, like, the 9 realms. It was so good. And then, like, it shows Asgard and, like, flipped. Oh, it's an amazing scene. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That scene is so good because you get this bonding between them. As I said, I think it's a really good romance that blossoms. And then this such a quiet and understated moment where Thor just looks at the sky, he just looks at the moon, and he just remembers his home. Because, for him, obviously for the audience, we know that he's gonna go back, but he thinks he was never gonna go back, and that's so important to him. And I think that is just a really nice way to do it. And on the point of the comedy, it always has something to say about Thor, and, like, as you're saying, when he smashes that glass, that's not just him being, arrogant. It's also him showing, like, when they're like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I didn't mean any disrespect. This is what politeness is. Like, this is what I'm used to. And he kind of gets that humbleness. And even in all the ways that kind of he bonds with Selvig and all that stuff, I think it's really good. I will say
Yeah.
the thing that I don't think is quite as good about this film is the side characters. The MCU always struggles with side characters,
Yeah.
and I think that Darcy and the Warriors 3 and Sif, they're all very underdeveloped. There's a scene at the beginning where Thor, he goes around the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif, and he's like, hey, aren't we such good friends? Hey guys, remember how we're such good? It's like, they don't show us that, they just tell us that. And I feel like the film does take a little bit of time to really get, like, when they reunite at the end, when the Warriors 3 and Sif come to get Thor and they reunite, I think it's a really nice scene because we've then seen them bond and we've seen them all miss Thor and want him back and him missing them. I think that is really good. But at the beginning, they're kind of just like, hey guys, we're such good friends.
Oh, yes, we shall fight in Valhalla or something like that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with, like, they were underdeveloped. Like, Darcy wasn't really, shown through a lot of the film and didn't have a lot of interest for Thor because they were just scientists. But then Jane Foster, great side character and great relationship between Thor and Jane. So I really like that. And as I said about like Norse mythology, I liked. Wait, was that in the Norse mythology? I'm just trying to think about the Destroyer. Because
I'm not sure. It's definitely a comic book thing, but I'm not sure if it's actual mythology.
Maybe, I think it's a comic book thing, but not Norse. But okay, so with the comic book thing, yeah, with the Destroyer, it's a really cool concept to have like the Destroyer in the MCU. But with like that whole battle with like Thor trying to fight against the Destroyer.
I love the way that they do that with the Destroyer kind of mirroring Loki and Thor's plea to him, like, these people are innocent, what do you gain from taking their lives? Take mine, and end this. It's such a good completion of his arc. It's very similar to the Doctor Strange putting himself in the time loop with Dormammu. Thor just sacrifices himself. Well, I'm who you want, take me. It's very simple, but as we said, it then brings that amazing moment where he catches the hammer again, and it really works. And I definitely think that a lot of that final act is so good. Like when he fights Loki in the Bifrost, and he's like, "You can't." It's like, this is madness, and Loki's just like, "Is it? Is it really?" And Loki believes so heavily in what he's doing. I think that's amazing, and how that kind of is furthered to destroy the Rainbow Bridge, to save everyone in Jotunheim, the people who he has hated, the Frost Giants, who he has no reason really to like, other than the fact that they are people too. He destroys the Bifrost. It means he can never go to Earth ever again. I think that it's such a good climax. Obviously, ending with Loki killing himself at the end by letting go of Odin's spear because he feels like he can never. I mean, like, obviously, we know that he doesn't die because he's in many other MCU movies, but for now, the point kind of is that he thinks that there's never going to be any way that he can be seen and loved. And so he kind of lets go. And I think that's just a really, really powerful way to end his arc in this film.
I agree. And then there was some good introductions to some of the characters. Like they brought Phil Coulson. Oh yes, yeah, Iron Man 2. Yeah, it was before Thor, right? Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
This all takes place in something called Fury's Big Week.
Oh yeah,
which is when Iron Man 2, Thor, Incredible Hulk, and the present day scenes of Captain America: The First Avenger take place. So all in a week, the Hulk destroys Harlem, Iron Man nearly dies and then survives, Rhodey becomes War Machine, Thor comes to Earth, and then they find Captain America in the ice. Like, what a week.
Yeah, that's an interesting like idea, like Fury's Big Week, like getting everyone together in this whole week. Yeah, I wish they could have did like a little short of like Samuel L. Jackson just like, oh yeah, we'll take the big guy. Oh yeah, we'll take Captain America, and then that billionaire. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
I mean, there are a couple of one shots that kind of tie into this. I think there's one called "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer," which is about Coulson on his way to the hammer. Like he stops at a gas station or something, and then he has to like stop some robbery. I can't remember, but yeah, that is something that happened. They used to do loads of one shots. Like for every film had a little one shot. I miss that.
Good old days.
When the MCU was simple.
Yes.
When do you remember? I mean, I guess you wouldn't because you didn't see the cinema, but there's a shot. Obviously there's the Infinity Gauntlet in Odin's vault.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that came out, and like you could see the Infinity Gauntlet. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, what does this mean?" And then obviously in Ragnarok, they confirmed that it's just a fake.
That would be a really interesting concept, like Thanos arriving in Asgard.
Yeah, that would be quite cool, wouldn't it? Like, I mean, maybe if not all the stones were there, but maybe if one stone was there and Thanos kind of like has to get, I think that would be very interesting.
Then again, that really cool introduction, that dark introduction of like Infinity War. That
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is. I remember.
I think it's the same. It's kind of the same.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the difference is that it's on a spaceship instead of on Asgard itself. But yeah, no, it is kind of similar. I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean that whole Odin's Vault is full of Easter eggs. There's one thing that's supposed to be the Eye of Agamotto. Obviously, they then changed it and have the Eye of Agamotto in Doctor Strange, but it's there.
Well, that's interesting. Like the Eye of Agamotto in
yeah, it's such early days for the MCU. It's so fun to look back on. I genuinely think that Phase 1, people don't really think about it these days, but I think it's really, really underrated. I think this film especially, people kind of like rap on it for various reasons, and I just don't see it. I mean, I definitely think that the first act is a little bit rough. As I said, it explains things to you rather than showing it to you. The whole sequence on Jotunheim, I'm not a fan of. It's too dark. You can't see what's going on in the fight scene.
Yeah, it's like, what they're on Jotunheim?
Yeah.
Like, okay, Thor, Loki, yeah. Oh yeah, there's one question though. How does Loki have those illusionary powers? Did he get trained by it, or?
Yeah, that's a good question, because obviously they don't really explain why when Odin finds Loki, he just becomes a human baby instead of a frost giant. That's a bit weird. I don't really know what's going on there, or how anyone has like powers on Asgard. Like maybe it's in the water, maybe they all drink something. But then again, like Frigga, Thor's mum, doesn't have any powers, and I tell you what, she does nothing in this film.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but Odin does so much, and Frigga's just there. Like, and then in Endgame and in the Dark World, Frigga is kind of like a big role because, like, you see that she has quite a connection with Thor and Loki, and it's kind of a shame she didn't do more in this one.
Yeah, I wish there was more of a role for Frigga, because I think she's a really important character, but I think Odin was more of a the central idea of this whole arc of like Thor trying to be worthy again.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about fathers and sons and kings and this kind of dynasty. So like, it definitely fits into those themes.
And I loved the reference of like the wording on Thor's hammer, like whether shall possess this. Like that's not even mentioned ever again, unless in Thor: Love and Thunder. Like how Jane Foster would get.
Yeah, that's interesting because clearly, judging by Love and Thunder, Mjolnir has been reforged. So that's interesting. In the comics, what's very interesting about the Mighty Thor comics is that Thor is no longer worthy, and that's why Jane ends up picking up the hammer, because nobody else can pick it up, and Thor kind of goes in his own kind of quest of rediscovery. Whereas I feel like in the MCU, Thor's already proved himself worthy in Endgame when he picks up his hammer when he goes back to 2013. So I do wonder how they're going to appropriate that in Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I wish they could have done something more for Thor in Endgame. Like, he was fat.
Yeah, Thor's got a very interesting arc in Endgame. I mean, across the whole MCU, really, he goes through a very...
He's been through pain. You've just been through...
He has been through pain. He really does lose everything. But I do wonder when we rewatch these next couple of films how it's gonna have changed, whether it will still kind of hold up.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, still here.
I thought you were gone. Like, oh my God, Tom's gone. I don't know what to do. I'm not going to speak.
This is not your show, John. I'm retiring from the business.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Out of Time Film Podcast. We talk about films, games, TV, and all that jazz. My name is John, and with my co-host, not
John.
Tom.
I'm John, and my co-host John, and it's just you talking to yourself for like an hour.
So, John, how do you think about Thor? Oh, Thor's great. You know what it's all about? Yeah. Thor's all about like this guy who's arrogant. And
maybe I should leave and let you just descend into madness.
Oh my God, John, what do you mean by this? And then like, no, It's a 10 star. No, it's not. It's a 9 out of 10.
What's going on?
I don't know.
Oh
Anyway,
my God.
so a very underrated film.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like before we do our final score, I have one more thing to say.
Yes, go on.
When I was a kid, I didn't know that the frost giants were giants. I'm sorry, but they just look like regular sized people. Like, I mean, like, I love the way this film is shot, but I don't think that Kenneth Branagh shoots the giants as giants. Like, maybe they're not supposed to be, but they're like, it's literally in their name that they're frost giants. Like, I'm confused.
Oh, I didn't think of that because I just thought they were giants because, like, the frost giants. I mean, it's Jotunheim. Yeah, it's a very strange concept for that because, you know, like, they look regular people, the frost giants, and then in Norse mythology, the frost giants, they're like the size of the Empire State Building.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, they definitely didn't convey that. I mean, imagine if Thor and Loki and the Warriors 3 and Sif all went to Jotunheim and they're like, Luffy, I'm letting Luffy just steps on them. Just like,
I mean, yeah, that would be funny. But I think that the frost giants are compared to the size of what's the guy from Ragnarok who Thor gets?
Yeah, Surtur.
Surtur, yeah. Surtur,
Surtur, son of a bitch, you're still alive.
Yeah,
so, Thor.
Yeah.
What are you gonna give Thor out of 10?
An 8 or 9.
I'm gonna go 8. Yeah, I think 8.
Yeah, an 8. It's a great film if you
really
want to learn about Thor, and love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. We've got so much MCU content. It's coming out of our bloody ears. We did Doctor Strange, both Doctor Stranges in the last couple of weeks, in Moon Knight, we've done Avengers, we've done all the Spider-Man films, all the TV shows. Like, there's just so much to sink your teeth into, so please do, and stick around with us because in the coming weeks we're going to be doing The Dark World, we're going to be doing Ragnarok, we're going to be Love and Thunder, but next week it's Top Gun Maverick.
Ooh,
I mean, 40 years since the original. Who is it going to be good? Who knows? You can also follow us at Twitter and Instagram at @OutTimeFilmPod. And if you have any questions or comments about Thor, about anything, give us an email at @OutTimeFilmPod@gmail.com and we'll answer them on this very podcast. And I promise that next week I will sound normal again.
Well, it sounds like that you're just trapped somewhere, just like
help. I'm trapped in London. Help me. I've actually been watching the Star Wars prequels. I'm having a good time.
Good. A surprise, but a welcome one. Yes. You must know the memes before you watch the prequels. Actually, you should do that because that'll be a lot funnier to watch. And you're like, haha, I know that line. And you're like, I have the high ground. You underestimate my power. And then
it's all every single line in the prequels is just a meme.
Yes. I don't like sand. Sand. Okay.
Yes, I'm just waiting for you to finish up now. I'm just like, yes.
I'm sorry. I just said this word sand and that just made me laugh. Thank you for listening. We enjoyed talking about Thor, and we can't wait to talk about the other Thor films. Am I right, Tom?
Yay! The Dark Worlds. Woohoo! Yeah. Widely considered the worst MCU movie ever.
Christopher Eccleston as
the villain. I forgot about Christopher Eccleston. No, I forgot about Christopher. No, oh, you made me sad now. Why would you tell me?
See, because I don't want to talk about Thor: The Dark World.
I've been on a huge Doctor Who kick recently, and now I'm sad about Christopher Eccleston.
It's okay, Tom. You can cry right now. Thank you for listening. Be safe. Be good. Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.